course.
Let,
Yes.
let's get started. Um, I would like to outline the link that, in my opinion, exists between the priorities of the subsequent presidencies of the Council of the European Union and the equality agenda. Both issues are extremely important through the prism of appropriate functioning of the European Union. That's why I decided to connect them and try to assess whether and to what extent the ability of the EU institutions to push for the equality development, particularly through the legislation, is possible thanks to or is dependent upon the member states' decision to indicate the equality as the priority while leading the council's meeting. What is the council's presidency? It is a 6-month period through which each member state on equal footing leads the council's meeting, deciding on not only on the priorities of the council itself, but also on the priorities of the European Union as such. Why it is important? Because of the role that the Council plays in the European Union. It is one of the co-legislator along with the European Parliament, and without the Council, it is almost impossible to adapt legal acts apart from the special legislative procedure. I mean, under the ordinary legislative procedure, it is impossible, but there are some issues to which the parliament might decide on its own. But there are really very, very rare cases under the treaties. So leading the council means leading the political and first and foremost legal decision-making process in the European Union. As I have already mentioned, the Council's presidency is exercised on an equal footing, what means that the member state, according to the sovereignty principle, is entitled to lead this institution through 6 months every 13 years. This is right now because of the number of the member states that amounts to 27. What is important also from practical point of view is the fact that the member state is not leading itself the council. The presidency is performed its so-called trio. So the selected and subsequently leading the council's meeting member states are supposed to cooperate with respect to achieving their own priorities, but also the common priorities that at the very beginning need to be agreed between them. It means that, in fact, the council's presidency might be considered to last 18 months, and this gives a kind of stability to the leading process, both of the council and the union. And it's really very important to remember that without this stability, integration processes wouldn't be able to be realized in a smooth manner. So the cooperation between the member states in trio or creating the trio is really very important. When it comes to the Poland, which has just finished its presidency, the trio is composed of, apart from Poland, the Denmark and Cyprus. I couldn't stand myself from sharing with you pictures from the opening of the Polish presidency. That was really great event, something that will be remembered at least by me for many years. But while talking about the Polish presidency, we need to keep in mind the very specific and difficult circumstances under which we took a leading role in the Council. First and foremost, with respect to the international environment, there is still, and there was at the time, the war in Ukraine. We were about the presidential election in the USA that has changed, for example, the competitiveness on the global market and the international relation between the states. And of course, the migration that is still a kind of pressure on the European Union and its member states. And against this circumstances, the Polish presidency decided to concentrate on 7 dimensions of security: defense and security, protection of people and borders, resistance to foreign interference and disinformation, ensuring security and freedom of business, energy transition, competitive and resilient agriculture, and finally health security. Quite innovative one, taking also into account the limited competences of the European Union with respect to this issue. And this all falls under the motto of the Polish presidency, that was Security Europe. What is missing, at least in my opinion, amongst these priorities, it is the other very important aspect of security, the legal security of the individual, that might be defined as a state of protection of equal treatment of individual. So the protection against discrimination as a factor of sine qua non of legal security. This is missing, and I found it quite surprisingly, because it means that apart from Hungary, Poland is the only one member state holding the presidency for years that has not decided to include directly and expressly into priorities any issue devoted to the human rights protection, particularly dealing with the equality principle. If we take into account the Czechia, the Sweden, the Spain, and the Belgium leading the council's meeting through their times of presidencies, they all have decided to prioritize some aspect of human rights protection, or either expressly or implicitly under the topic, for example, of rule of law, democracy, and solidarity. This is unfortunately missed. This is what is missing among the Polish priorities, although the more detailed plan of action of the council's different formats has enshrined some aspects of equality principle. Nevertheless, while talking about the promotion of the equality principle, it was not done under the Polish presidency. What are the practical aspects of this lack? I would like to show it and explain it against the equality agenda that was developed and advanced by the European Union through the former presidencies, which indicated equality as their priorities. And let's have a look at Czechia. And during this presidency, the EU adopted very important Women on Board directive. Then we have Sweden and its presidency and the adoption of the pay transparency directive. Then the Spanish presidency that they played important role while a negotiation on standard directives and gender-based violence directive. And then we have the Belgian presidency that was able to finish the legislative procedure, and thanks to which right now there is the time for the implementation on the directives on standards for equality bodies and the directive that is going to increase the protection against gender-based violence and domestic violence. While there is no priorities among the Hungarian priorities that were advanced during this member state's presidency, there is no equality achievement. And exactly the same comes when we are talking about the Polish priorities. There is not only non-advancement, but there is also a very important step back, as during the Polish presidency, the council resigned from keeping the so-called horizontal non-discrimination directive on the agenda of the legislative process. And to conclude, why is it important to advance equality? Firstly, because it is the founding value of the European Union. Secondly, because it is operationalized through the aims of the European Union, among which equality is visible and is to be achieved through different aims, what means that it must be achieved in different aspects and at different levels. And the third point that I would like to explain is the obligation of the Union to mainstream gender equality and other aspects of equality. So resigning from outlining the equality amongst the priorities means resigning from promoting what lies at the basis of the integration processes. And this leads undoubtedly to very practical results. Let's have a look at the Gender Equality Index, which measures the state of equality between men and women in the European Union and its member states. The latest results show that we are more or less at in the middle of the second half of the road to the gender equality in the Union. And what means that we really need to concentrate on the equality agenda. If we will keep to the actual speed of advancing gender equality, we will achieve it in 64 years, as Commission explained. So this is very distant perspective still. And I would like to finish with the quotation: "The ability to eliminate a wrong is contingent on it first being named," by which is meant that a particular experience has been identified and publicly acknowledged as a wrong in need of legal and other forms of redress and subsequent prevention. Naming through, for example, placing equality amongst Council's presidency priorities is an important tool for revealing and otherwise either harm, explaining its implications and labeling it as human rights concerns, grievance, and possible human rights violation. Once a wrong has been named, it is then possible to identify whether it is a form of discrimination and set about the task of securing its elimination through the adoption of legal and other measures. Lack of naming means inability to identify the problem and to formulate its solutions. Thank you very much for your attention. Once again, please forgive me that I need to leave almost right now. Unless you have some questions, please feel free to ask them right now, as I am unable to stay longer. Thank you.